to the females. For the girls, it's quality that counts. But boys are driven to breed with as many mates as possible. Women need to be cautious when selecting a mate. But for men, any fertile female will do. So is his behaviour thoughtless, vulgar, inconsiderate, or just plain good sense? When it comes to sowing wild oats, it's the same story for us and the rest of the animal world. Females of all species are usually a little more discerning. They want their babies to have the best chance in life, and this means they need the best possible genes from their males. Females can tell a geek from a hunk at vast distances. And in the case of peacocks, the eyes really do have it. Females will mate with the peacock whose feathers reveal the largest eye spots. And girls, it seems size really does matter. Offspring of the biggest and best males grow faster and are more likely to survive. Biologists who measure symmetry in animals think that there may be a genetic basis to feminine taste. Being lopsided may mean that you've not been able to deal with stresses such as resisting disease and competing for food. In short, the most symmetrical males are probably best suited to their habitat. Females don't have the option of lab testing their prospective mates, so such signs of physical condition provide an instant solution. It means that humans, like other animals, have to be fit to attract a mate and make babies. For most animals, making babies seems as easy as falling off a log. And all the animals on our planet adopt one of two strategies. Some animals go for the big bang, where quantity counts more than a gorgeous date. For the particularly ugly sockeye salmon, it's probably better that they get it over and done with quickly. And their night of passion isn't exactly the stuff love songs are made of. She lays the eggs, he fertilises them, then they both drop dead. But most other animals prefer not to have sex just once in their life. Shrews and other small mammals live life in the fast lane. Like rock stars, they live fast, die young, and have hundreds of kids. Having a litter may be normal for the shrews of this world, but humans usually have only one baby at a time. We're among the most infertile animals on Earth. Even though there are 6 billion of us on the planet, getting pregnant is surprisingly difficult. Men toil around the clock to make 12 million sperm a day. But women can only be bothered to release 1 egg a month, and even then the egg's only fertile for 3 days. The odds of getting pregnant are pretty slim. There may be a huge amount of sperm, but the egg presents a very small target. In fact, it's all quite a hit-and-miss affair. One look at the CERN giant gives us a good idea what he was used for. In the past, humans may have prayed to him to have children, but history doesn't record whether the visits actually worked. Now, thanks to the wonders of science, we understand the mechanics of getting pregnant. Using microscopic methods to matchmake, scientists reveal how tricky the introduction between sperm and egg can be. But it's not just us. Some animals have problems too. Like many big cats, cheetahs are in decline in the wild, and technology has provided a helping syringe to inject new life into the species. Koalas have also been helped in this way. And of course, the panda is the world's best-known bad breeder. Experts at the San Diego Zoo have started a panda sperm and egg dating agency.
You want to try to put an adapter on and just...
They're using modern methods to overcome the panda's natural coyness towards coitus. With artificial insemination, the experts may well save the panda from extinction. But for most animals, getting pregnant is easy and natural. Well, as natural as being taken over by something that inhabits your body, controls your movements and makes you eat non-stop. You are what you eat. And in the case of a newly conceived mammal, you are what your mum eats. Craving particular foods is the baby's way of making its needs known. If it needs calcium, then the mother might have an overwhelming urge to eat more cheese. But with bananas? Chocolate and cabbage combo is unlikely to be a hit on a menu, but it provides a delectable medley of fat and vitamins, essential for growth. The baby is demanding nutrition, and the mother can be driven to impulsive behaviour. At times like these, it helps to have an understanding partner. The result of all this gorging is fat. The bum, hips and belly expand to protect the baby. It's very functional, but not very fashionable. To us, this ancient fertility figure may be no centrefold, but 25,000 years ago, man celebrated the link between fat and fertility. Because big women have big, healthy babies, and big babies have a better chance of survival than small ones. But fat dads make good parents too. The emperor penguin almost never sets foot on land. It spends its life off the ice continent of Antarctica. As winter begins, the female lays her single egg. The egg's gingerly passed over to her mate, who puts it under a flap of skin called a brood patch. The female then rushes off to the open water before he can change his mind. A winter of fun beckons, and the males shuffle together in pods for protection against the -40-degree temperatures. Throughout the long, dark Antarctic winter, the male emperor penguin heroically battles the elements with an egg on his feet every minute of the time. To drop or expose it means certain death to the embryo. Then the females, sleek, glossy and smug, come tobogganing across the ice to rescue and relieve their weary mates. And the dads can go back to using their feet as feet and not nests. Humans may think they've reached the top of the evolutionary tree, but like all animals, they still need to prepare for the baby's arrival. But it's made a little easier. We have special shops to help as we panic and stumble through the nesting process. Everything that a parent could want, and more. A bewildering array of products that humans have to have. And it makes you wonder how the rest of the animal world manages without. In contrast to our behaviour, animals nest using whatever's around them. For most birds, that's a twig or two, or a hole in a tree. In many bird species, male and females take turns sitting on the egg, but not hornbills. The female finds a suitable tree hole and starts to plaster up the entrance using her beak as a trowel. The male offers his help, but she generally ignores him, preferring to gather her own mud and droppings. A tiny opening's left, and when safely ensconced in her dung-sealed domain, she incubates her eggs. Her mate attends to her needs, fanatically bringing her food every day for the next few weeks. The female takes advantage of her incarceration by molting her feathers and slumps about naked inside her tree. Then when she's got her figure back, she breaks free from the hole. And the chicks reseal the nest until they fledge. Whether you're a hornbill or a human, preparing for the big day is a serious business. And each and every nest is prepared with love. The parents may be working hard to prepare for the baby's arrival, but the baby's doing its own bit too, by growing.
I'll just show you baby's face there because it's come up well. You can see little baby's hand here. Yeah.
Humans check on the baby's development using techniques such as ultrasound.
Baby's face. You can see his forehead here.
We've stolen this technology off dolphins, who use it to navigate around their underwater world and fish for food. They bounce sound waves off objects such as rocks, sharks, and camera crews, and the echo they receive back provides a sound picture. Their ultrasound gives them superpowers, X-ray vision. It's thought that dolphins can detect when an animal's pregnant and can see the baby inside. Ultrasound provides a 3D peek inside the womb and checks on the health of the unborn child. Humans can also see if they're having a boy or a girl. As yet, we have little control over choosing the sex of our offspring, but in the natural world, some animals are ahead of the game. For some reptiles, like turtles, alligators and crocodiles, the sex of their offspring isn't fixed at conception. Female American alligators build nest mounds of mud and vegetation and lay a batch of eggs. The mother can ensure that most of the eggs hatch as males simply by locating her nest in a warmed spot. But if she climbs ashore and lays her eggs in a shadier area, they develop into females. But that's not the end of the mother's involvement. Parental care's rare in reptiles, but alligators are an exception to the rule. The mother alligator keeps a beady eye on her nest, and when the time comes, helps her babies hatch. Mum then gently scoops up the hatchlings in her ample jaws and carries them down to the river for their first swim. Not many animals catch a sight of the world from these jaws of death, unless it's their last. Few will mess with this mother, and such formidable protection ensures a healthy start for her young. Despite our advanced understanding of the birth process, when it comes to the crunch, it's still a very tense time for both the male and the female of the species. The human female is particularly vocal during delivery.
Yes.
Okay, just pass me breath now. Right, open your mouth, right and wide. Big breath in each time, and out through your nose. That's it.
By contrast, the male is confused, helpless, and probably nauseous.
And again.
Humans aren't the only animals who employ midwives during delivery, but only the human ones wear these cute little blue uniforms.
Have a little breather. Well done. Okay. Lower your breathing right.
For us, it's a high-tech business with monitors to,
Okay.
well, monitor things, and drugs to take away the pain. But human males have it easy in comparison to the seahorse. When it comes to being a father, there's no animal quite like the seahorse. It's Dad who gets pregnant, the only male animal stupid enough to do so. The female places her eggs in the gullible male's pouch, then promptly scarpers, leaving him literally holding the babies. After several weeks, tiny sea foals emerge one by one to float in an oceanic nursery. They're fed from secretions in their father's pouch until they're old enough to find food for themselves. And despite the father's constant attempts to get back in touch with the mother, she never returns his calls. For the rest of us in the animal world, the normal rules apply, and it's the females who do all the hard work. Animals find the nearest hole in a tree, a burrow underground, or even the middle of a field. Because we've made such a fuss about birth and surrounded it with machines that go ping, there's been a backlash. Natural birthing is the latest fashion. If you can afford to hire a small swimming pool, you can give birth underwater. It's supposed to be better for the baby and more comfortable for the mother. It may also save on swimming lessons, and there's a lifeguard on hand if the youngster gets into trouble. If you happen to be an elephant, you can still have a midwife, but you won't get the swimming pool. Midwives are common where animals are large-bodied and live in tightly knit social groups. Elephant families are dominated by the fairer sex. The matriarch rules a clan of her female relatives. This sisterhood sticks together through thick and thin, although the concept of thin is somewhat lost on these enormous cows. Older females in the family help young, inexperienced mothers-to-be by providing care and support through the pregnancy, birth and the raising of the young. In elephant life, midwives are exclusively female. Males play no part in assisting the birth of a baby.
That's it, well done. Sounds like you're nearly there now. Good. Big deep breath. That's it, well done, good.
For humans too, when it comes to the big moment, the man's a bit of a spare part.
And again.
All he can do is hold her hand and quietly panic.
Well done, good.
In the sanitised world of the modern delivery room, the mechanics of birth are left to the mother and the midwife.
Contraction gone. Good. Has that pain gone? Yeah. Good. Good. Well done.
By comparison, the marmoset male is truly a new man. Marmoset males are on standby to help their mates through the birth and beyond. One baby has already been born and another is on its way. Most monkeys give birth to single young, but marmosets generally have twins. After the second twin appears, the female contracts again and the afterbirth flops out. As the female sits exhausted, the male chews through the delicious umbilical cord and tucks into the placenta. It may be a messy start, but helping at the birth is just the beginning of the male's role in parenting for their babies. Maybe new man has a thing or two to learn from the marmoset. Babies hold a magnetic appeal for adults of many species. We're attracted to those infantile traits, small, cuddly, soft and vulnerable. And being so cute is essential if you want adults to take care of you. Babies put their parents under a spell. They need care 24 hours a day. And the parents are programmed to provide it. But it isn't a one-way arrangement. The baby may need its parents, but both parents have a vested interest in making sure that their offspring survives. The baby offers its parents a chance of ensuring that their genes live on. So taking care of baby is a joint effort. But sometimes Dad isn't around, and mothers have to rely on hired help to look after the baby. Sharing motherly duties isn't unique to the human world. Wet nurses and even day care centres have long been employed by other animals. Social insects like bees are the experts at providing daycare in the animal world. The queen bee sets up a birth monopoly by sending out pheromones, a chemical royal decree banning egg-laying among her servants. Then she throws herself into an egg-laying frenzy. Although eggs are laid in great numbers, it's the quality of the care they receive that enables them to survive. Workers find food, tidy up the hive and look after the babies in an oversized nursery. The all-female workers are closely related to their queen, so they have a vested interest in the health of the hive. Males act as foreign bodies and serve only as flying sperm donors before they die. The secret of the bee's success is down to the most efficient and dedicated daycare in the world. Sharing caring duties is comparatively uncommon in mammals. But in some mammal species, recruiting mother's little helpers is a way of life. Having so many young can be a pawful, and many mammals use nurseries and babysitters to look after the kids. Some species suckle and tend the children in a communal breeding system, but the cooperation isn't always voluntary. Pack animals like these wild dogs are led by a dominant female and male. Only the alpha female is allowed to reproduce, and unrelated lower-ranking females are coerced into the role of wet nurse. The currency that keeps these nurseries together is lactation. Mammals are identified as a class of animals simply because of the odd milk-secreting glands that develop in only half of their members. One rare fruit bat is the sole exception to the role of lactation being exclusively female. With their big litters of fast-growing, costly young, dwarf mongooses are models of communal breeding. These mongoose supermothers use nursemaids to spare their nipples while suckling so many young. But in this case, the females are related. The subordinates act so much like real mothers that they spontaneously lactate. Mammals that pursue the Milky Way have an advantage. Infants can have their food on tap, so they don't have to compete with adults, and can be left so mother can go out to forage and restock milk supplies. This dairy lifestyle works so well for mammals that the experts say, and you know they're usually right, that we succeeded where the dinosaurs failed simply because breast is best. But the award for serial breeding and suckling in the mammal world has to go to a marsupial mammal, the kangaroo. Kangaroos and wallabies, like all marsupials, give birth to tiny young that develop outside the womb. To adapt to the unpredictable conditions, kangaroos have evolved a milk production line to cater for infants of different ages. While the tiny joey is attached to a nipple producing semi-skimmed milk, another nipple produces full-fat milk for the older, more active joey hopping about beside the mother. In a hostile environment, always having a baby up your pipeline is a shrewd strategy. In the Antarctic, Weddell seals produce high-fat milk for different reasons. These seals give birth on precarious ice floes. Their pups need to develop fast to avoid predators and survive in their freezing icy playpen. So milk has to be delivered in a hurry. The mother hoards blubber in advance of birth and then feeds her nursing offspring pure cream. The result is seal pups that grow quickly, so that if the fragile nurseries crack apart, they have a better chance of surviving. For many animals, the milk of kindness is truly mother's milk. Breastfeeding has led to the evolution of a hormone which acts as a natural sedative, providing a postnatal pain-numbing euphoria. It's possible that this hormone, called oxytocin, is also passed on in breast milk, giving a feeling of peace and bonding for the mother and the baby. But with a distinct lack of milking equipment, how do males bond? Caring instincts can be found in male primates, and bonding is a necessary first step. Human males can bond by proudly showing off the fruit of their loins. But what makes a good dad in the rest of the animal world? Baboon mums live in multi-male troops. The males have no idea whose kid is whose, so they adopt a contingency plan. They stay in touch with former girlfriends and protect them and their babies from males intent on trouble. Grooming helps males to bond and feel like dad, even though they probably aren't, and also helps to keep on the mother's good side. Baboon males can also be surprisingly patient when rudely harassed by curious youngsters. Babysitting and playing with the nippers is a good way to bond too. Male gorillas grow huge and sport a silver back to advertise dominance and control of a harem of females. So a silverback male can be certain the infants that surround him are his own, and can spend time being an affectionate and indulgent big daddy. Even when the young ape's playful antics are driving him to distraction. But the award for the most attentive and playful dad goes to the black-tailed prairie dog. The black-tailed prairie dog is a rodent that gets its name from the strange barking sound it makes when it detects an enemy, and through having a black tail. Prairie dog towns are made up of over 1,000 individuals divided into clans. Prairie dog pups are treated like royalty. Pups demand constant attention, and no little prince is ignored. Prairie dogs are very active fathers, playing with and grooming the pups just as much as the mothers do. But some males play little or no part in parenting, and can even be dangerous. A lion pride is usually composed of a dominant male, perhaps one or two younger males, and a number of closely related females and their young. The females share the males and do most of the hunting. With such closely bonded females, lion cubs can catch milk from more than one mother. The males spend most of their time lying around, their only parental contribution being to protect the pride and put up with annoying youngsters. But with so many mothers around and a father close by, lion cubs are positively besieged by parent figures. Some animals take no part in parenting. Are they bad parents, lazy, or just very clever? Many frog mothers just lay their eggs and leave. The embryos are on their own. Sadly, they'll never experience the loving care and protection of a big ugly frog, and will have to survive by using what legacy is left to them inside the egg. Most parents do everything they can to ensure their offspring's survival. But babies help themselves and their parents by being born with their own instincts to survive. Being newborn means you're vulnerable. All babies have natural reflexes that are used to cope with their precarious state. Recognising the person who takes care of you is top of the list. Young animals are programmed to seek attachment to a trusted figure. There's a crucial time just after birth when some young animals imprint on an adult. Goslings are programmed to attach to the first figure that looms before them. It's usually their mother, but the instinct is so strong that if the first figure they see is human, then that becomes mum. The gosling's best prospect for keeping safe is to stick close to mum and follow her everywhere, even when she's being silly. Wildebeest use a similar sheep mentality. They migrate vast distances over territory infected with predators. To stay alive in the wildebeest world means you have to follow the crowd and follow it quickly. Wildebeest calves can stand on their own 2 feet and can be running away from danger within minutes of being born. Unlike other antelopes, wildebeest have lost the instinct to hide. Instead, they are urged on by the impulse to follow. Primates aren't born runners, but do have some advantages. Hands to hold on with. Grasping in young apes is a vital reflex for clinging when being carried. For humans, it's a throwback to our ancient ancestors. A young primate's urge to cling to a familiar figure is a powerful force. Staying close to a caretaker is essential for your own survival and development. The larger you are and the longer lived you are means more time spent growing up and learning from adults. All apes develop slowly. But with their big heads and large brains, humans take the longest to mature. To cope with the inevitable squeeze through the birth canal, human babies are born earlier and so much more helpless than other primates. Unlike a wildebeest calf, humans don't know how to walk within minutes of being born. It takes time. First, they must learn to balance their weight. Mobility comes next with the advent of crawling. Just before a year old, human babies start to pull themselves upright. To take those first momentous steps. Walking on 2 legs is an important part of being human. It's one of the more obvious biological differences between humans and other apes. Once you're mobile, desires can be turned into actions. And these actions are expressed even more clearly by another development. Language. The use of language is an essential difference between humans and other animals.
You got one, Amber.
But that's not to say other creatures don't communicate.
That's a bit tall.
Sights, sounds and smells are used to great effect among animals to convey messages to friends and deal with enemies. There's another skill that's rare in the animal world. Self-awareness is thought to exist only in humans and possibly higher apes like chimpanzees. It's the ability to recognise yourself in a mirror, a key indicator of intelligence. Baboons may look intrigued by their reflection, but apparently they've no idea who's staring back at them. For human babies, self-recognition is a milestone in early development. And you can detect it as soon as the little darlings mention the words, "I want." Or fight over that vital toy. Most mammals play. It may be great fun, but it's got a serious purpose. It allows animals to test their strengths against peers and teaches valuable lessons about pecking order. Through play, a youngster can acquire the experience it may need in adulthood. Watching and imitating adults also helps to hone your skills. Young chimps learn how to use and make tools by observing adults and then practicing the skills themselves. For many animals, a parent's experience and knowledge is vital to its survival. Elephants, like humans, live on a long time after the birth of their children. Recent studies have shown that the older an elephant matriarch is, the more finely tuned her social skills are. And this is tied into the success of her family. And the old adage that an elephant never forgets holds a great deal of truth. The elephant grandmother remembers the location of vital resources. Her experience guides the group to find essential nutrients and water in times of need. Without this knowledge, the survival of the youngsters would be severely affected. As with all animals, the wisdom of the parents is passed on down the generations. Through their skills, their genes live on. To be a success in life is to be a successful parent. It's the only way to ensure immortality. Parents that are successful are those who've raised their babies, which not only means giving birth, but looking after them until they reach independence. As their children venture out into the big wide world, the successful parents can rest assured, having prepared their offspring for the long road ahead, to live their lives, avoid death, and hopefully meet a mate.